Hello, this is Birds. I want to do a little bit of today I wanted to do a little bit more of a update on Greece. I got it in the article. I got 27 statistics about the European economic crisis that are almost too crazy to believe. This comes from that website, European Economic Collapse. I'm gonna tag it, but it's really interesting, and it sums a lot up and some of the things I didn't really realize. The economic crisis in Europe continues to get worse, and eventually it is going to unravel into a complete economic nightmare. All over Europe, national governments have piled up debts that are completely unsustainable. But whenever they start significantly cutting government spending, it results in economic slowdown. So politicians in Europe are really caught between a rock and a hard place. They can't keep racking up these unsustainable debts, but they continue to cut government spending. Is going to a perfect example for this is Greece has been going down the austerity road for several years now, and they are experiencing a full-blown economic depression. Riots have become a way of life in that country, and their national budget is still not anywhere close to be balanced. Americans, and this is where it's really important, should pay close attention to what is going on in Europe, because that is what it looks like when a debt party ends. Most of the nations in the Eurozone have just started implementing austerity measures, and yet unemployment in the Eurozone is already the highest it has ever been since the euro has been introduced. It has risen for 10 months in a row and now is up to 10.8%. Remember, that's the overall picture. If we look at Spain, their unemployment is about 30%. We look at Greece, 25% or whatever. Salary is going to get even higher as economies across Europe slide into recession. That is going to put even more pressure on the European financial system. Most Americans do not realize, but the European banking system is absolutely enormous. It is nearly 4 times the size of the U.S. banking system is. When the European bank system crashes, and it will, it's in parentheses, it is going to reverberate around the globe. When the European banking system crashes, it's going to reverberate. The epicenter of the next great financial crisis is going to be Europe, and it's going to get closer with each passing day. The following, and this is what I find really amazing, is 27 statistics about Europe, and I'm going to start. This is going to start with Greece. The economy shrank by 6% during 2011. It has been shrinking for 5 straight years. The unemployment rate in Greece in 2010 was 12.5%. During 2011, the average unemployment rate was 17.3%, and now the unemployment rate in Greece is up 21.8%. The youth unemployment rate in Greece is now over 40%. The unemployment rate in the port town is Parma is about 60%. In Greece, 20% of all retail stores have closed down during this economic crisis. Number 6, Greece now has debt GDP ratio of approximately 160%. Some of the austerity measures that has been implemented in Greece have been absolutely brutal. For example, Greek civil servants had their incomes slashed by about 40% since 2010. Despite all the austerity measures, it is being projected that Greece will still have a budget deficit equivalent to 7% of GDP in 2012. Greece is still facing unfunded liabilities in future years that are equivalent to approximately 800% GDP. Okay, and then now this is Spain. So this is kind of a cool article too. Spain, the unemployment rate in Spain is up to 23.6%. The youth unemployment rate in Spain is now over 50%. The total value of all toxic loans in Spain is equivalent to approximately 13% of Spanish GDP. The GDP of Spain is about $1.4 trillion. The 3 largest Spanish banks have approximately $2.7 trillion in assets, and they are all on the verge of failing. Home prices in Spain fell by about 11.2% during 2011. The number of property repossessions in Spain rose by 32% in 2011. The ratio of government debt to GDP in Spain will rise by more than 11% during 2012. On top of everything else, Spain is dealing with the worst drought it has been in 70 years. Okay, the next part of this, right? Portugal. This is number 19. The unemployment rate in Portugal is up to 15%. The youth unemployment rate in Portugal is now over 35%. The banks in Portugal borrowed a record 56.3 billion euros from the European banks in March. It is being projected that the Portuguese economy will shrink by 5.7% during 2012. When you add up all these forms of debt in Portugal, government, business, and businesses and consumers, the total equivalent is approximately 360% GDP. Okay, now let's go to Italy. That's always kind of a cool topic. Youth unemployment rate in Italy is up to 31.9%, the highest level ever. Italy's national debt is approximately 2.7 times larger than the national debts of Greece, Ireland, and Portugal put together. If you add maturing the debt that the Italian government must roll over in 2012, the budget deficit, it would come to approximately 23.1% of Italy's GDP. Italy now has a debt GDP ratio of approximately 120%. So why hasn't Europe crashed already? Well, the powers that be are pulling out all their tricks. For example, the ECB decided to start loaning gigantic mountains of money to European banks. These accomplish two things. It keeps the European banks from collapsing. Two, European banks use that money to buy up sovereign debt, and that kept interest rates low. Unfortunately, all of this game plan is also to put the European Central Bank in a very, very vulnerable position. The balance sheet of the European Central Bank has expanded by more than $1 trillion over the past 9 months. The balance sheet of the European Central Bank is now larger than the entire GDP of Germany, and the ECB is now leveraged 36-1. So just how far can you stretch the rubber band before it snaps? Perhaps we are about to find out. The European financial system is leveraged like crazy right now. Even banking systems in countries that you think of as stable are leveraged to extremes. For example, major German banks are leveraged 32-1, and those banks are holding massive amounts of European sovereign debt. When the Lehman Brothers finally collapsed, it was leveraged 30-1. You can't solve this crisis with more debt, but the ECB has been able to use more debt to kick the can down the road a few more months. At some point, the sovereign debt bubble is going to burst. All financial bubbles eventually burst. What goes up must come down. Right now, the major industrialized nations of the world are approximately $55 trillion in debt. It has been a fun ride, but the fraudulent pyramid of risk, debt and leverage is going to make the crashing down come at some point. It's only a matter of time. I was really impressed. Another thing, if anybody went to the World News today on MSN or Yahoo, go to World News. China, Japan, and South Korea had just made an agreement for a fair trade agreement. Basically, what's going to happen is Japan and China and Russia and India have already dropped the US dollar, but they're trying to convince South Korea to drop the US dollar too. Between China, Japan, and South Korea, when you combine them, produce 18.5% of the world's exports and imports and that kind of thing. What's really important is there's a lot of things unemployment is going to continue to raise. We're going to see a lot more austerity measures happen here in the United States. to pay off this debt. The debt is not going to go away. There's only so many hats the Mad Hatter can pull a rabbit out of. For us, the Battle of Europe has already begun. It's each country, and when these situations circumstances are going to get worse, you're going to see the European Union fall apart. You're going to see Britain leave the Eurozone in its entirety. Greece, in a matter of time, it's within the next few weeks, are going to pull out. Norway is going to call in all its marks. That was one country that didn't go along with all that debt trimming. They need their money. Norway needs their money and stuff like that. But what's really attentive is we're going to see one country fall after another. To the Eurozone, the debt crisis. We're going to see riots everywhere in Europe. As Greg Vegas, 5909, he's Greg Manarino, he'll tell you, this is going to happen on a massive scale. We got to be prepared. Stock up on as much food as you possibly can, all other supplies you need. Always keep your vehicles topped off with gas. And, when things happen, it's going to happen. If you can get gold, you can get silver, make sure it's real. Don't just give somebody money like Gerald Celente did and expect it to be delivered to your house 3 months later. All right, we got to be prepared because we're going to see austerity measures happening in the United States. We'll see food riots. We're going to see these Occupy Wall Street cities all over the United States. We're going to see massive rioting happen. Toward the end of summer, it's bad enough, but it's already happened. But we got to be prepared. I'm not a conspiracy theorist and all that. I'm not in favor of overthrowing the government or anything like that. If anybody knows me, I'm a prepper, and that's important to me. I'm preppered. I try to help as many people as I can, and I take care of my family. God bless. Take care. As anybody knows, if you can find a way to get to middle of Wisconsin, if an SHTF or WRL scenario takes place, give me if something happens, if you can find where find me and stuff like that, I'll give you my address. You can, I got a place to sleep and I got some food. God bless. Take care.